Good morning, and it's time for another EM1X adventure. Today I wanted to see how well this camera does in a theme park environment. So I am here at Disneyland on a beautiful, foggy Friday morning, and I'm gonna see how this camera performs as a tool for walking around a theme park. How does it perform when you're carrying it around all day, getting in and out of rides? Is it gonna get in the way? Is it overkill? Is it going to help me get some of those difficult theme park shots that I've struggled with in the past with other cameras? I'm gonna basically take you along with me for a day of vlogging and photography in the park. Stay tuned, should be fun. Well, the first thing that bears mentioning with the EM1X is the size. This camera is enormous compared to any other micro four thirds camera for sure, and it's the same size as professional DSLRs. It's about as heavy. So that's a bit of a bummer. It is heavy and bulky to carry around, but it's not too bad because it's a micro four thirds camera, and so the lenses are smaller. You get a lot of performance out of relatively small lenses, and so you can kind of balance the equation with bringing compact lenses. And in Disneyland, you're going to want to bring a lot of fast primes anyway because of the dark rides, and fast primes are usually pretty compact. So I think overall, it's not a deal killer. All right, so on the subject of things that are awesome about this camera for the theme park is the build quality. It is one of the most rugged micro four thirds cameras you're gonna find anywhere. So it is drop proof, it is splash proof, it is dust proof, it's weather sealed. You can use it in the rain, you can use it on Splash Mountain, you can use it on rides where there's water and liquid flying at you, and it's not gonna have a problem, especially if you also use lenses that are also weather sealed. Because this camera has the dual grips, that means it has room to store 2 batteries, and so you don't need to worry about changing your batteries until late in the day. In addition to having 2 batteries, it also has space for 2 memory cards, so you don't have to worry about running out of space throughout the day. So you can really just hold the trigger down and shoot all day, photos and videos. That's a peace of mind kind of thing that partially justifies the extra weight and bulk of this camera. The EM1X also has dual controls. It has controls in the traditional position, and it has another set of controls along the bottom, along the dual grip, and that gives you another place to access your shutter speed, your exposure compensation dials, and a few other buttons. And so if you spend a lot of time shooting things in portrait mode, it's a lot more comfortable. You don't have to cock your wrist at an awkward angle for long periods of time, and it makes it really enjoyable. I think I found another hidden benefit of the dual grip on this camera body, and it's that it allows me to hold the camera in different ways. Specifically, the way I'm holding it now, you've got this huge, long, rubberized grip along the bottom of the camera, which makes it really easy to just take the camera off your shoulder, flip it around, hold it by the base, and you've got a nice, quick selfie mode. Another cool thing about this camera is in shooting video, the image stabilizer is incredible. Between the InBody image stabilizer and the video stabilizer, even with a really wide lens like this fisheye that's prone to a lot of jiggle, it is really easy to shoot clean, stable video with this camera. And that's beneficial in a place like this because you're on moving rides, everything's moving, you're walking, you don't have a lot of time to stand still, so a good stabilizer is a godsend. Oh, I made it. Oh, finally made it out. Whoa. I am way too tall for this park these days. Crawling through all the caves here on Tom Sawyer's Island has really caused me to build up a sweat, and now that the sun is out, this layer is no longer needed. So it is time for a trip back to Main Street to hit up the locker, ditch this layer, and on the way I'm gonna talk about a few more things that I think make the EM1X a great theme park camera. A lot of the things that make this camera great for sports, action, and wildlife photography also make it a great theme park camera. It has great autofocus. It's tracking my face right now as I shoot. It tracks moving subjects. So if you like to do ride photography and shoot things as you're moving past in a ride vehicle, it works really well. Also, it has a great high shooting speed. You can get 15, 18 frames per second with autofocus between each shot. All right, that's a little better. Now it's just about time to start heading out of here and getting ready to park hop across the way to DCA, where Food and Wine Festival is happening. So I'm gonna go get my grub on. All right, now we're inside DCA. I have a Lightning Lane reservation for Soarin' over California because it's back this year. I got about an hour for that, so I'm gonna go see if I can find something to eat first. All right, this will be a fun test. Usually when I ride something like the Incredicoaster, I use my trusty action camera because it's just, you know, the ride moves too fast, the turns are too fast to be able to try to manhandle a big, full-on, you know, SLR-sized camera. But for the sake of y'all, I'm going to show you how this camera performs on that kind of ride. So this ought to be fun. Okay, that was pretty awesome. That was actually really difficult, trying to brace myself against the harness, keeping the camera tight against the strap to keep it as stable as possible during a ride. As I make my way over to the beer pavilion, I figured I'd talk about another feature that this camera has, and that is slow motion video. It can shoot up to 120 frames per second, and the fact that I'm using a really wide angle lens kind of fixes the fact that the slow motion video doesn't have autofocus. So I think the shots look pretty cool. So now, off to the beer pavilion. As a photographer, I find the afternoons at Disneyland parks really frustrating because the crowds are highest, so it's harder to find a nice quiet spot to film. Also, the sun is high in the air, there's not a lot of shade, so there's not a lot of good photography opportunities. It's just hard to find places where I can make good content, so I tend to try to do most of my shooting in the morning and in the evening. So let's just fast forward to the evening once it starts to get dark, and then we'll talk about more stuff. See you then. It's midnight and they are kicking us out of the park. Before I go, I want to talk a little bit more about the InBody image stabilization that this camera has. I already talked about how useful it is on video and on fast-moving rides where things are moving around, but I didn't talk enough about how useful it is doing stills in low light using long shutter speeds. You don't need a tripod, you don't need a remote release, and you can get away with shutter speeds of a quarter of a second, a half a second, a whole second, sometimes even longer. For example, this panorama, this is a 9-shot panorama that I took standing on a planter and holding the camera over my head, and I still got really, really sharp pictures at 0.8 of a second exposure. You don't even need an f1.8 aperture. You can do a lot of this with and f4 zoom. So it really is a game changer, the kind of shots you can get with this type of technology in the camera. So take it out after dark and see what it can do. So wrapping up what we've learned about the EM1X as a Disney theme park camera. Overall, it's kind of a wash. It does some things better than your average camera, like your autofocus speed, your shooting speed, your in-body image stabilization, your digital image stabilization when you're shooting video. All of those things make it really, really awesome for carrying around a theme park, shooting on dark rides, shooting on high-speed rides like Thunder Mountain. It has modes that make a lot of those difficult Disney shots achievable, but that comes with a downside. It's heavy, it's bulky, and it is just more to manage when you're, getting on rides, using the restroom, finding a place to set it down when you're eating. It just takes up more space. So if you don't have a camera and you're thinking of buying one for theme park photography, there are other options you probably should explore as well. But if you have an EM1X and you want to take it to a park and you're wondering how manageable it would be, you'll have a great time. You're going to get some great images, you're going to get some great video, and if you already have the camera, you know what it can do. So I'm kind of preaching to the choir there. So this is kind of my strange, rambling, disjointed review of the EM1X in the Disney park. I hope you enjoy it. I will see you next time with another video real soon. Thanks.